And I understand that the petitioner's position references Rule 604 of the Colorado Rules of Evidence, which governs the use of interpreters at trial, and that an interpreter is subject to the provisions of these rules relating to the qualification as an expert and the true translation. I would note that I failed to give the interpreters an oath the last time. We often don't do that because there's court-certified interpreters, but I will go back and do that, and I will do that before we start the proceeding today. But I am going to deny this motion in limine, and here's why. Number one, I understand that maybe there's not a great vehicle for filing this kind of motion, but you know, in my world, it preclude the admission of evidence, so I don't know that this is really the proper way to raise this, number one. Number two, I want to remind everybody that this is a trial to the court, and that to the extent that things occur like, you know, in this case, the respondent saying something to the interpreter about whether or not he believed that the interpretation accurately reflected what he meant to testify to, that's really not evidence. I'm going to listen to what I hear from the witness at the witness stand. You can cross-examine about things like that, but this is a trial to the court. I'm presumed to ignore any evidence that is irrelevant or information that's irrelevant in the proceeding. But moreover, I found no law that says that when you have a bilingual witness who might understand the interpretation, that he cannot correct the record. And he can speak from his personal knowledge. And, you know, and I think our interpreters can confirm this, that this is a bit of an art. It's not a science, and there is not word-for-word interpretation. I don't think that's possible with Mandarin. I'm not sure it's possible with any language. There are phrases and things that the interpreters must interpret based on their understanding of how the language is used. And therefore, it is not uncommon for there to be a slight variation in sort of how things can be interpreted. And I think if you or two interpreters, they might not interpret things exactly the same. And so to the extent that Mr. Zheng needs to correct the record based on his personal knowledge of what he's trying to communicate, I think that he can do that. He can speak from his personal knowledge. We do ask that if we're going to use an interpreter, we try and use one language because it's very confusing and difficult for the interpreters to know how to go back and forth. But I couldn't find anything that precludes him from correcting his own record. And candidly, folks, you know, when I thought back to the proceeding last week, the most memorable interchange that I think Mr. Zheng had with the interpreters was over whether the petitioner had brought cotton candy to the children. Not the most important issue in this case by a long shot. And I think he's entitled to correct those kinds of things where there might be some room and not a direct translation, say what he meant. So I'm denying the motion in limine for that reason. I don't think that he has to be an expert or certified as a court-certified, if you will, expert interpreter. The only case that I could find in Colorado that was remotely relevant, and I think it's not exactly on all fours, but it's People versus Munoz Castaneda, 300 P3D 944, Colorado Court of Appeals, July 5th, 2012. And I would note that in that case, the issue was raised as to whether a detective who was not a certified interpreter could talk about his understanding of what a Spanish-speaking individual had said to him. And what the court is that it talks about what the role of the interpreter is, but it says that the role of a fact witness is to relate based on personal knowledge, information, or events relevant to an issue at trial. That's Rule 602. And a fact witness doesn't have to be neutral and impartial like an interpreter does, but must provide a truthful recollection of events. And when a fact witness's testimony includes an English translation of his out-of-court conversation speaker, his role doesn't change from fact witness to neutral interpreter for purposes of testimony. And it said, as long as the translating witness has personal knowledge of the relevant conversation or evidence, is capable of testifying to a translation of its contents without, in this case, leading the jury and is subject to cross-examination, he can testify without first being certified as an interpreter. So this is the closest case that I could find, and Mr. Zheng is a fact witness, and he's entitled to talk about his personal knowledge. And in the case of the marshmallow, he certainly could say what he believes to children, and so I'm going to deny the motion in limine on that basis, okay? So before we get started, I think we ended with about to start cross for Mr. Zheng, right? I do want to give our interpreters an oath, and if you would please just raise your right hand to our interpreters. Do you both swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that you will do a true and accurate translation from Mandarin to English and English to Mandarin in this case? Yes. Okay, thank you very much. And let me just ask our interpreters as well under oath. At the first proceeding, did you give, to the best of your abilities, a true and accurate translation of the testimony that you heard? Okay, thank you. All right. So with that, I'm going to let Mr. Zheng, are we ready to have Mr. Zheng take the stand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Think you can come up to the witness stand? Chris, is the microphone all set up there? Okay.
And Your Honor, my co-counsel is going to do his limited cross first.
Okay.
And I have so he can see.
Yes.
Respondent.
So what we are going to do, just because we've got Mr. Lian in another state, is there's going to be an iPad so that he can view Mr. Lian's question, just so that he's not talking to a voice, right?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, just a side note, Your Honor. I think the interpreter's voice is kind of low on my end.
Okay. Do we have the microphones? Do you need the microphones for interpreters? Let's get those.
Just because I was doing the simultaneous interpretation and the sound problem didn't hear clearly. So I realized that, and now I have a microphone.
Okay, terrific. And I just want to note for the record that we have the respondent, Mr. Zheng, is in the witness chair. We've got Mr. Liang, who's joined us from WebEx in San Francisco, right, Mr. Liang?
No, Your Honor, in China.
Oh, and you're in China. Oh, I'm sorry. Why did I think you were in the U.S.? Sorry. Okay. All right. He's in China in the middle of the night or something like that. All right. And Mr. Zheng, oh, he needs to hear.
It's broken.
Hang on a second.
I don't think that in terms of interpreting context, I don't think that
Okay. Cool.
Okay.
directly that.
It's cool.
Okay. And Mr. Zheng, I'd just like to remind you to speak directly into the microphone so that Mr. Land can hear you, okay?
Okay.
So move the chair up and speak right into the microphone. And Mr. Zheng, I do want to remind you from the last time that you were here that you are still under oath. Do you remember that? Okay, do you understand?
Yes.
Okay.
了解.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lian. Go right ahead.
OK， 连先生，题话也是讲的慢一点，因为有这个 delay 的助词，所以呢，请你讲话讲慢，而且讲清楚。好的。
Understand. Your Honor, I just want to make sure the video of the witness has been on because I have not seen him.
The video?
Of
Yes.
the witness.
We'll let counsel make sure everything's okay. I can see you. You can see me, right? Let's make
Yes,
sure.
Your Honor. I just cannot see the witness.
Okay.
Okay, it's on there. It's if you change your layout on the top right, you can see and restrict it to people with only video. You'll see Judge Brody, Jay, and the witness.
Well, is the court able to move the witness to the first screen on the layout? Because mine is, I only show like 4 people on one page.
Okay. Do you want me controlling it? Let me do this.
Okay.
How about if it will help if I do this, Mr. Lian? If I do the grid, I was doing it, but I can certainly, there we go. Does that work, Mr. Lian?
Yeah, I saw. Yes, the Katie's video. Yes, I saw the witness, but not his face. I only can see half of his face. So maybe we don't. Yeah. So maybe you want to make sure you look into this.
Move that.
是
Do we want to
要
move
求
the iPad over?
这
Do
个
you
被
mind,
告
mind
到
Mr. Let's see. Is that better?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm ready to start.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I'll just leave it
能
like
停
this.
止一下，我能不能把这个放在这里？因为这个屏幕一直在闪烁，我觉得会蛮影响我回答问题的。
You might move the iPad to the other side. The flashing signals really.
因为信号不是很稳定，然后就会一下黑一下白。
Oh. Let me do this. What if I what if I turn that off, participant?
No, not
That
really.
doesn't help. Yes. I'm not sure what the flashing signals are. Do you know, Ms.?
Well, it works for me now.
Is that, Jay, can you still see?
Yes, I can see you.
Okay, that should fix it.
Yes. Okay, can we start, Your Honor?
Yes, you can go ahead and start. Go right ahead.
Thank you. May I please the court, morning. Mr. Zheng, you understand the court just reminded you that you are testifying today under oath, right?
所以呢，我现在要提醒你，你是今天的作证是在宣誓之下的情况之下的作证，对不对？
是。
Yes.
Meaning that if you knowingly lie to the court today, it's a class 4 crime. You understand that, right?
I cannot hear him. So slowly, don't just in a
Yes. So you need to slow it down just a little bit, Mr. Lian. This is going to be challenging because the audio is not great.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. And last time you testified on Exhibit J, you remember that?
What? Say it again, Mr. Leon.
Last time you testified on Exhibit J, do you remember that?
Oh, okay, so last time you testified to Exhibit J.
Oh, Exhibit J. Okay. 所以上次呢，你对于证物 J 你是做了证。上次的审判。
So the witness has been asked, do you remember that last time you testified to Exhibit J?
你记不记得上次你已经作证过对于证物 J 的作证？
我记得我们有聊过相关的证据。我有记得我们有聊过相关的证据。
Yes, I remember. Yes, we have a conversation about this related exhibit.
You're going to testify on Exhibit J today for the best interest of your own children, right?
今天呢，你是不是要跟本庭作证是基于对于你的孩子最大的福利的一个考量，你今天要来做这个接的作证，对不对？对于这个证物的作证。
Object to the question. It appears to presuppose the purpose of the testimony, and there's no way this witness can know the purpose of the testimony until a question's been asked.
就是说呢，今天呢是要来作证，要被问问题的。
Yes,
直到他问问题之后呢，我才知道这个并不是才知道这个目的，而不是一刚开始就要问这个问题。
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that objection, and why don't you go ahead and ask your question differently, please?
直接就的问题。
Last time you testified that from February 2020 to July 2020, the mother did not come to the United States to pick up the.
Just 1 second.
你上次的这个证词是不是说2020 2月到2020的8月之间，妈妈没有来美国的这段事件，对不对？
不对。
No, it's not correct.
事实是到直到2021年2月11日之前。Interpreter.
Well, my question clearly. Sorry,
我没
go
有
ahead.
回答我的问题。Can you stop?
Okay, hold on.